No, it's still very difficult to process. And I'm sure there are members in your audience who have experienced it. And well, I mean, we all do. We're all going to lose someone.
Right. Yes, true.
But sometimes when it's a younger person, it feels very unfair. It feels unnatural.
Yes.
But what is natural? That's just our concept of how things should be. So I think that it was very jarring, and it's still difficult to accept. I mean, I have to. It's the finality of it that's the most
Yes.
difficult,
Yes.
you know.
Fear stops us from achieving our true greatness. Are you a professional woman who is feeling stuck, unmotivated, or burned out? Are you worried about your wellness? Are you letting fear stop you from crushing your goals? If you answered yes to any or all of these, then this is the podcast for you. Dr. Charmaine Gregory, night shift emergency physician, burnout thriver, and wellness champion, along with everyday heroes just like you, will explore how to face fear in our lives and emerge victoriously.
Hey, thanks for checking out this episode. Be sure to click the subscribe button and the notification bell so that you get notified when the next video comes out. It only takes 2 seconds to make 2 clicks. So let's do it. Let's get back to the video. Hello, 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 Fearless Freedom Tribe. This is Dr. G, and we're back for another exciting episode of the Fearless Freedom with Dr. G podcast. And today we have Carina Ramirez Cahan with us, and she is going to tell us all about who she is and what she is up to. Take it away.
Well, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to meet you, talk with you. I hope that I can share some of what I've learned in my life with your listeners, because I think we all have experienced fear, and many times it's quite limiting. And I know that it has been in my past, and I fight it regularly. And so basically, where I am now is in the second company that I have started, and it's in a completely different area than where I was before. I came out of Wall Street and corporate America, and then I went back to graduate school to go study Japanese history, so that this was not business related. But I was working on a business plan for a friend, ended up joining their company and raising money for that, and it was in renewable energy. Who knew,
Okay.
right? And this was
All right.
back around the year 2000, when no one was really thinking about renewable energy the way we are now. It
Right.
was a really tough sale. Anyway, I moved fast forward. I left that company, and then I was trying to think of what I would do next. I knew I didn't want to go back into corporate America, so I wanted to go into something of my own again.
Okay.
And my husband is a breast surgeon. He's actually a breast cancer surgeon.
Okay.
And so he developed an alternative to the Underwire, because so many of his patients were complaining about underwires.
Oh, yeah.
And he discovered, with his physics and mathematical background, engineering background, he figured out there has to be a better way to support the breast. And he developed that idea, presented it to me, and then I had to figure out how I was going to get that made, because other than being a consumer of bras,
Right.
I'm not in the
Manufacturing is a whole
industry.
different ballgame.
That's right, exactly. And when you're taking something that's brand new
Mhm.
into an industry that's kind of stayed, and there really hasn't been any innovation in a
Right.
long, long time, as an outsider, where do I go? I don't have any contacts or experience in that industry. Trying to get this made, and there were a lot of obstacles.
Okay.
And there were a lot of times when I really thought, my God, what am I doing? It's it takes money, it takes time, it takes energy. And you have to persevere through a lot of rejection and
Yes.
failures.
Yes.
So anyway, we've gotten through so much of that. We launched the company, COVID hit, I
Oh,
put things
gosh.
on
Yes.
hold. And then I have two sisters and a younger brother. And a little over a year and a half ago, my brother, who's younger than I am, developed renal cell carcinoma.
Oh,
And
wow.
a few weeks within of diagnosis, he passed away. And
Oh,
it
my
was
gosh.
such a shock, and it felt unfair. And I would say it's only been about a year and a half since he passed away. And I would say that situation brought more fear into my life. than anything else.
Yeah.
And the fear was that, well, one, nothing's ever guaranteed. Your time is not guaranteed. You as a
Yes.
physician know
Yes.
this, especially in
Yes.
the emergency room. But,
Oh, yeah.
when you're living your normal life, I think that many of us take for granted that death is in the future, way in the future. And if we have siblings and family, they're going to be with us for a long time, especially a sibling that's younger than you.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
And
I
that
mean,
didn't happen.
it's a reasonable train of thought. There's nothing like, yeah, I see nothing wrong with that train of thought. And I'm sorry that you had to like have that kind of interrupt where it's like, wow, this is out of nowhere. Like, how can it be that you find this out about yourself and then the next thing you know, you're just not here anymore? It doesn't seem to um it doesn't seem to make sense.
No, it's still very difficult to process. And I'm sure there are members in your audience who have experienced it. And well, I mean, we all do. We're all going to lose someone.
Right. Yes, true.
But sometimes when it's a younger person, it feels very unfair. It feels unnatural.
Yes.
But what is natural? That's just our concept of how things should be. So I think that it was very jarring, and it's still difficult to accept. I mean, I have to. It's the finality of it that's the most
Yes.
difficult.
Yes.
So that it took me a while to bounce back from that, and in the midst of that, downsizing my parents who were in their 80s, declining health, and selling their home of almost 40 years and putting them into a senior community. All of these, they're dealing with their own grief.
Right.
So I had to kind of put things on hold with my business. But I will say that the death of my brother and the realization of what was always true, which is there is no guarantee, that really spurred me to action. Once I was able to gain some, strength and a little bit of distance from my brother's his death date, it spurred that feeling like, well, what am I waiting for?
Wow.
And that, I think, that is the question that anyone who has fear, and I have my own fear, based situations. They're probably very different from a lot of people's situations. I mean, I think of someone in Ukraine being bombed.
Oh, yes. Yes. The daily life threats, fear.
People in Sudan and what they're dealing with.
Yes.
I'm relatively safe, but we all have fear. And
Absolutely.
I think that, but in our normal course of life, if we're not in a war-torn area, why are we going to let the fear hold us back?
Right. Right. No, these are facts. It doesn't always translate to how we process things and how we actually execute, unless there's some insight. So, it sounds like you had an interrupt that kind of brought you to that place where you're like, look, I'm not going to make fear stop me now. I don't know how much time I have. I had no idea how much time my brother had, and I'm going to honor him and the time he had by making the best use of my time. So I'm not going to let fear stop me. So that is not the interrupt that most people will experience. And, there's always going to be some element of, personal development, because if you've been in business, if you've done anything in the business realm, which you have, you would have had to at some point done some kind of personal development, because it's not an easy thing to do, right? It's not easy for you to do business, period. It's not easy for you to do entrepreneurial pursuits either. And it's like a roller coaster is what a lot of people describe it as, because it really is. It's like there's so many times when you're like, okay, is this going to even work out? Because you even mentioned that there were many times when you heard the word no, and that can be kind of disheartening, but it doesn't stop you, because that for every no, that there's a yes out there. You just have to find that yes. And it takes a lot of inner strength, and it takes a lot of having worked on yourself and on your mindset to be able to kind of push through that. So I think that you know, the situation that you've been faced with, and the fact that you never are given anything more than you can handle, no matter how hard it seems, no matter like, how we think, oh, there's no way we can get through this. Like, if you couldn't handle it, the universe would never have given it to you. And so there's a reason for that. And I honestly believe that, the yes is out there. Like, I feel like it's there, it's waiting, and it's just a matter of like just manifesting it. And my family thinks I'm crazy because I always talk about manifestation, but I feel like it's real. And I honestly feel like that directs our purpose. It directs our ability to make impact. And it's clear to me in just talking to you for these few minutes that that you have that you are manifesting your purpose. And, it was your angel just kind of gave you a little bit of push. And so, no, thank you for sharing that, because I feel like, that's not an easy thing to share, because there's some vulnerability with that, to talk about a pain like that, to talk about some hurt that you've had and in the recent past. So, we really appreciate you being candid and vulnerable and sharing that. You're sharing your truth with us.
You're welcome. I feel that I think a lot of people don't like to talk about death to someone who's lost someone, because they're afraid that bringing up that person's name will remind you that they're not around. But you don't need reminding. Every day. You just know. And I still have his number on my cell phone, like on my favorites. I'll never remove it. I can't. It feels sacrilegious in a way to do that. But I feel that in talking about him, I'm honoring his memory, and I'm keeping him alive in my heart. And it's the only connection I have with him now. And so I think that, again, we all will experience losing someone. And many people, I'm sure many of your listeners have, in tragic ways, in gone too soon, or old age. And that's its own, painful, even though someone got to live to 90 something, it's their time. It's still, you knew them that long, right? And that person's gone, right? So it's a loss. So yes, I feel, I talk about it because I can't keep it inside. And he's just a part of me.
No, that's beautiful. Absolutely. And so, how are you? So how is everybody else in the family doing? Like, how are they dealing with it?
Well, I'm the oldest of the four, and my two sisters are fantastic. I'm in New York, one's in California, San Francisco, one's in Vermont. My parents are now I'm really close to the Connecticut border, so they're 20 minutes away from me.
Okay.
But for my parents, it's very difficult. I can't imagine losing a child.
Absolutely.
For my sisters and me, it's we talk about it. We talk about my brother, because we were all very, very close. We spoke to each other regularly, weekly. And then he was extremely charismatic and funny, and a great father, a real hands-on father to his two teenage boys, a great husband. And I think, we miss him, and we talk about him, and but we also, I think, as you move further along the process, you integrate. The grief doesn't go away. It's just that you kind of integrate it, and then you just keep going. But we talk about him, and we miss him, and maybe I'll call my sister, or one of my sisters will call me. I'm really missing him right now, and I get it. And there's nothing you can do except go through that wave of grief, and then get to the other side and know that it's just like the ocean, and this is what life is. It's the loss, it's the joy, it's everything.
Absolutely. Wow. I'm glad that you
sure
have
in the field of medicine,
good support. Yeah, no, yeah. Listen, it's just, we could talk for quite a while about that and how it affects the people that are providing the care to the patients. But obviously it's never going to affect, it's never going to affect us the same way because we don't have that person's story, right? Like, so we weren't part of their story. But I mean, we unfortunately are part of the story at that last moment, which, sometimes can be okay, sometimes not okay. It all kind of depends on how things unfold and, the lead up to that. And, again, expected versus unexpected, all of these things play a huge factor. And then the age of the person also plays a huge factor. I find that we have a really, really hard time with children, teenagers, like, we have a really hard time with those situations versus an elder who has, in fact, lived quite a nice life. Not to say we have no idea, like we have no right to say when someone's life should, end or whatever. But I'm saying, there's a difference between, like, as you said, it seems unnatural for a child or for someone's younger child, to go before them, right? It just seems very unnatural. And a lot of us are parents. So, whenever there is a child involved, it's just more impactful. We take it a lot harder. We tend to, it's just very, and then of course, you have to, you cannot let, we unfortunately see it so much that we can't, because if every single time you give a piece of yourself, when you lose a patient, there's not anything left of you. And so there's like another layer of dealing that is, it's complicated. It's very complicated, but it's like,
I think it is.
Yeah. And then you have to always make sure that you do not, because part of the dealing is compartmentalizing, and you have to be very careful that you do not compartmentalize so much so that you can cope and actually be a whole person when you leave to your own family, but that you don't become cold, because that can happen, right? I mean, that's one way to deal with trauma. You just shut off, you just shut down, and then you're not compassionate, when you were before. Right. And that's not fair to the family because that's their moment, right? That is it for them. It might be the 1,000th moment for you, but it's still their first moment. So it's very complicated.
Oh, I think so. And I think
say the least.
And I've gone to the emergency room with my parents. That emergency room doctor is the person you are hanging on to for all the answers and all the hope, and everything is vested in that person. And for that doctor, this is just one of many cases that just that day or that night.
Yeah.
So kudos to healthcare workers and doctors and, everyone involved in the caring for other people, because a lot of demands on you, to take care. Everyone's looking to you for the answer.
And I mean, our goal is always going to be to take care of our patients, right? I mean, that's why we went into this, or else, what would be the point? Right. So, it's a very interesting thing. And I've been doing this for, oh boy. I mean, I've been a doctor for over 20 years, but I've been out of residency probably 17 years now, 18 years maybe. So, it's a process. Yeah. And every time you have to really make sure that you have insight, make sure that you are cognizant of that thing that you just said. You just said, this is a family who's having a moment, whatever it is, whether it's something that, in my mind, I think is emergent or not, it doesn't matter. I still have to realize that it was an emergent situation for them. And I can never expect people to have the same training and the same knowledge that I do. Because like I just told you, I mean, it's been 18 years plus residency, right? And so I can never expect you to make the determination of whether something is truly an emergency or not. I can make that determination in my mind from the initial encounter, but I would never expect someone to go on Google and try to figure it out on their own. You know what I mean? There's a reason why there's training. There's a reason why, I mean, you're married to a surgeon. There's a reason why he spent 12 years or whatever, however long after his postgraduate education, because it takes a lot to make
It takes a lot.
decisions about
That's right.
people's lives.
Right.
So,
That's right.
yeah.
Exactly. That's why I have a whole new respect for that. And, I know that one, I would not be cut out for it. And two, I think I would have even saying this makes me know that I know I would fail organic chemistry. I just know it.
It's
My
it's
husband
funny that you
said,
say that because like that was
because
my
you aced
struggle.
it.
I struggled with that one. And then I married someone who has a PhD in it. So it's just like, yeah, but it's funny. You'd be
Right.
surprised though what you could do. But I think like for you say that you would be hindered by the one class. He says that he'd be hindered by the sight of blood, which I'm like, listen, if you don't like the sight of blood, then this is definitely not for you. No matter what, either if you decide to go into derm or radiology, you still at some point need to, be okay with seeing
Yeah,
blood.
exactly. Especially in the
So,
ER, I would imagine,
oh yeah,
especially
oh for
in the ER.
sure, for sure, we
Yeah.
see a lot of that. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. Which reminds me, I need to donate blood because I know when my brother went into surgery for his first of 3 surgeries, and he had 2 cardiac arrest in that first surgery. It's amazing that he survived that, but he died just a few days later. But he went through so much blood, and
Okay,
that I never
yeah,
thought about donating blood. And then I thought, oh my God, my brother went through so much blood
yeah,
that we have to donate. I have to donate. I have to offer this for someone else
yeah.
who could be in that similar situation, you know? So, yep. But I think, I know when I do have to do my blood work, I can't even look at the needle. So,
Uh-oh. I have to have your distractions.
yep, I just look the other way and I
Yes,
wait for
that's
the,
fair. At least you know what to do. And you're not going to pass out in the chair. Because some people, they like, they look and then they like get all sweaty. And then they're like, next thing you know, they're like, pass out.
I look at, I hear the, I see the needle and I think, okay, that's it. I'm just looking the other way and do whatever you got to do. Just do it.
Yes, that's fair. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Wow. We've had a pretty good conversation here. Hey, it's Dr. G, and I just wanted to take a quick moment to thank you for listening to this episode. I'm so honored to have you here with me. Did you know that I can help you to get your own podcast started? With my podcasting launch course for professionals, I walk you through everything you need to know about starting a podcast. I'm with you every step of the way from sign up to launching your show with 5 episodes ready to go. There's a done for you version that's also available. If you would just rather just do recordings and leave the behind the scenes work up to us, then that one is definitely for you. But either way, we've got your back here at Fearless Freedom with Dr. G. Oh, if you already have a show and you need production services, we have monthly plans available for you. So check out the links in the episode show notes for more information. Let's get back to the show. Well, we should really talk about, and I appreciate all the shares. I feel like that was what was needed for sure. For those who are listening, I definitely want to get back to the work that you're doing now with the new technology for the bras. Yes.
Yep.
Because I feel like that is definitely something that we need to get out there.
Oh gosh,
Because
I
I
agree.
have a couple of friends who went through breast cancer. Actually had a colleague when I was in medical school who went through breast cancer. So
Wow.
it's definitely something that is very unfortunately ubiquitous,
Yep.
seems like.
It is.
Doesn't matter
Cancer is
where you come
us.
from, what your status is, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
It seems to,
Cancer is us. It's
yeah,
been
it
around
just seems
forever and
to do
it's
whatever it's
us.
doing. Yeah.
Well, so many women complain about the underwires, and there are a lot of myths around the underwire.
Mhm.
All debunked, of course, but the bottom line is that they're uncomfortable
Yes.
and they poke. And in fact, I have one here, an old underwire. This has been around for like 100 years. And it, I mean, just look at this thing. We put this against our body. It's not very flexible. It certainly doesn't go this way, but it certainly can poke
Yes.
underneath you, and it's not supporting you. It's just giving you shape. And so when my husband's examining a lot of his patients, I mean, he sees the redness, he sees, and the women who are particularly large or busted have so much of that shoulder notch.
On the
Women,
shoulder,
some
yeah.
women have to have surgery to, if breast reduction, to alleviate this weight, because what's doing a lot of the work of lifting the breast is the shoulder strap. And I'm not large, so it doesn't really affect me, but someone who's a double D and on, yeah, it does. And so I think, my husband looked at this, and so many patients said, Dr. Cahan, what do you suggest? And he said, I just know there's a better way to support the breast. And he basically hammered out this prototype for me and said, what could you do with this? And as I said, I had to find an engineering firm. I had someone who was willing to prototype something for me. And I got a CAD drawing for it. And then someone said, you could 3D print this. I call a firm to say, could you 3D print this for me? I actually took this little thing of metal. I knew it didn't want it to be metal, but I needed to make it more professional looking so I could take it to someone else. And I went to a metal bender. I mean, I called up the guy. I didn't know anything. I just found his name. I called him up. I liked his last name, which was Startup. I thought, okay,
oh, nice,
perfect guy for me.
That is
and
great.
I said, I have a little project for you, and I mean little. And
yes.
So can you take a look and maybe just hammer out something nicer for me? And I went to his factory, and he does like architectural metal work, steeple, things that go on top of steeples, big projects. He was this, I mean, he looked like Santa Claus. He was this big guy, white beard, a lot grime under his fingernails, just big guy. And I said, I just need you to make this Underwire alternative for me. And, he's looking at me like, lady, I don't know what that is. I'm not even sure I know what an Underwire is. And so but he got it and he made it for me. Anyway, it was also taking classes at the Fashion Institute of New York. I live right outside of Manhattan, and I'm fortunate in that way. So I had that resource that I could go take classes there as a mature student, because everyone there like 20. I was not. And and I started to learn a little bit about the apparel industry. We have a garment district in Manhattan. They still make things in New York City. So that was great. I had my bra designer is an instructor at FIT. I hired her to help me because I know nothing about that, right? So it was just putting myself out there, talking to people, trying to get introductions, going to trade shows, not knowing. I mean, here's even in this area, this little realm of, of fear, going to a trade show and feeling like an imposter because I didn't have a company yet. I didn't have a product. I was certainly not a buyer for another store. I don't know the industry lingo. All I know is I just want to see like what's out there, the trade shows.
Right.
And I got myself in, but I was afraid to say anything because, the people at the booths, they're there to sell a product and they're immediately looking at your name tag to see, are you a buyer? Are you a journalist? Who are you? Is it worth talking to you? And I was like potential competition in the future.
Fair. That's fair.
So I didn't know what to say. And I thought I'm going to say the wrong thing. So I just won't say anything. And I just kind of linger around and try to pick up the industry language and also learn. And so I just had to constantly get over even that little fear there, anxiety that I'm going to be found out and then ushered out the door or something. I don't know. I mean, nothing like that I don't think would have happened. But
no, I don't think so either. But we always make up the things in our head like,
yeah, exactly. And it becomes so limiting.
Yeah.
And I know that one of the questions that you asked to think about was, like, what do I wish I knew back then that I know now? And it's how limiting the fear is. It's our mindsets and these negative mindsets, and then that becomes our mental environment. And then we see everything from that mental kind of like polluted environment where we're not really seeing the reality. And most of the time, most people are in their own environments.
Oh, yes.
They're not really paying attention to you. So they're not even noticing you.
Right. Yes.
So like, what are you doing? Right.
Yeah.
So I would go back and tell myself, all right, examine that fear and how limiting it really is. And just see if it's really accurate. And then think, is this how you want to live your life? If you don't get through that fear, are you going to accomplish things that you want to accomplish?
Right.
And fear is going to hold you back from, fear is going to decide for you what you're going to do. And I think it's better to let yourself decide, even though I am afraid. I mean, fear doesn't go away. But I think this is where courage comes through. It's like, okay, in spite of the fear, or in spite of the fear of the rejection, or the fear that people are going to laugh at me at my idea, or they're going to find out that I don't really know what I'm talking about. I'm going to decide when I give up, not my fear.
Right. Yes.
That's
No,
what
I
I
love it.
would tell myself.
I love that.
Yeah,
I love that. You decide, not your fear.
I
Yeah,
decide.
you cannot
Don't
let the
let the
fear
fear
win.
take over.
No, you
You
can't.
can't.
Can't. No, that's good. That's good. And so do you have so are you at a point? So you mentioned that you have a bra designer, you mentioned that you had a prototype. Now is it in production now or not yet?
Now I have two styles of my bras. My very first bra, which is like a t-shirt bra, and then I made a kind of it's not a full demi bra. So I call it the semi-demi.
Okay.
So it's a little lower neckline. And this is a molded cup bra with our patented technology inside the cup.
Okay.
You can't see it. So
Right.
from the outside, it looked like a typical bra. And that was
Yes.
another important thing, was to make this in a way that to bring in new technology into current manufacturing procedures. Like I
Okay.
can't invent something new that can't be made in a typical factory. That I'm
Right.
never going to
Right.
made, right?
Yeah.
It had to be able to fit in current production process. So yes, I'm online and we're selling our bras, and I'm
Okay.
actually in the factory now. We're conceptualizing our kind of hip and cool athletic bra. I did a t-shirt bra, so it's kind of standard with some lace. It's pretty. The lace comes from
Okay.
Italy. It's a very pretty t-shirt bra. But now I'm doing something that's hip and cool in the
Okay.
athletic area with some
Okay.
technical fabrics. So I'm
Okay.
now doing, we're in the conceptual stage, working with the pattern maker and so forth in the city. It takes a lot of time from concept to sourcing the materials, to making a pattern, to making a garment, to get it on a professional fit model. I never even knew there were professional fit models for bras, but there are. And they're geniuses in many ways. The type of feedback they give to the sewer and the pattern
Oh,
maker is
okay.
invaluable.
Okay. Okay.
Because a bra that, you and I could be the same size, but I could put on the same bra and it would probably fit on me differently than it would on you. And you might like some
Okay.
aspects of it that would really be bothering me. I mean, it's such a personal garment.
Oh, yes, it is a very personal garment. Oh,
So
that's
anyway,
interesting.
so we're now that whole process of making your samples and making the tweaks, that's a several month process, because you've got to
Okay.
order your fabrics from these mills, and I get my fabrics from Italy. So I've
Okay.
got to order go to the showrooms in New York, look at what I like, then go order the samples, pay for the sample fabric,
Sure.
pay to ship that over, and then all to have it, cut up in experimental stuff. That's where we're at right now with our prototype athletic bra. But my two
Okay.
regular bras, my day bras, are online now
And so where can people get those?
on cobalt-rose.com.
Okay. So COBALT.
Hyphen
Okay.
ROSE.com.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah,
Awesome. That's cool.
that's
That's
it.
very cool.
It's quite the journey, and I have big plans. I tell you, big
That's
plans.
right. That's right.
But it all starts with just one day at a time. And again, I have had people ask me, wow, Carina, you started a second company and you're doing these things, and like I don't think I could ever do that. Well, I didn't think that I could ever do that either.
Right. It's true
And when I
though. I
first
mean, it's like you never set out to do some of these things, but if you get inspired and you're going down that path, you're gonna do them.
I certainly didn't go to school for it. I mean,
Right.
it just an idea came up and I thought, wow, maybe I can do something with this. And even then, to go into a kind of, an established industry and say, well, you guys, you mean you have nothing besides these guys? I mean, like nothing in the last 100 years besides the wireless, which gives you no
Right.
shape and no lift.
Right.
Like those are the two options that we got. And it's a
Yeah.
huge industry. And, it's like half the population of the world has to wear this.
Yeah.
So, and then there are people like, yeah, with this way we've done it, sells. Why would we do something different?
Wow. Wow. Yeah.
And then you
Yeah,
got to go in there and say, well, because there's a better way.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
technology, like it evolves
it
and our
does.
bodies evolve. I think more women are saying, I'm tired of the underwire.
Yeah, it is uncomfortable. There's no doubt about that.
God help you if you're in the wrong size with that
Yeah,
underwire. And most
yeah,
women don't know what their sizes were. And I didn't really know what size, because the last time I got measured, well, it was like 20 years ago. I
yeah.
thought, okay, but do you think you're going to be the same size
No, you definitely
your whole
change.
life? No.
Yes,
You're going
you
to gain
definitely
weight, you're going to
change.
lose weight, and then you're going to age and your body's
Yes,
going to change. But you're
yeah,
not always the same size in a bra.
right. It's
And
true.
anyway, it's not standardized in the industry anyway. I
No, it
mean,
isn't. Depending
36C
on the
in one,
brand is like a totally different 36C than the
exactly.
other brand. Yeah,
That's right. Some brands cut very slim, some cut more generously for the same size. So
yeah.
it's not standardized at all. And so that's why most women are in the wrong size and very uncomfortable, and why they want to ditch their bras, but they can't because they're
Wow.
going to go to a meeting.
Yes, of course. Of
When you're at
course.
home, it's a different story. But when you're out there, unless you're in
Yeah,
France, they don't care.
I
They're
know.
topless
I
on the
know.
beaches and they're okay with that.
I know.
But in
That's right.
America, that's just not the case.
Americans, they were like, oh, excuse me. Yeah,
We want
yeah.
coverage.
Take care of that.
That's right.
No, that's awesome. That is awesome. And so are you having any fears right now with how things are progressing? Because you've overcome some big ones, right? I mean, going to the trade shows, not being privy to all the terminology of the industry, seeking and finding the people, the collaborators that can actually help you along in the process. And now you're at a point where you have two items on the market, and
Mhm.
then you have another that is in prototype phase or in
Correct.
manufacturing phase.
Mhm.
So what kind of fears are you facing now?
I would say the biggest fear, I will say the biggest fear of all of those in that period was when it first launched, and I thought, okay, now, I mean, people can be mean online, like people have no
Oh,
problem. No one was mean to me yet.
right.
But you go and look at comment sections of anything that you're buying online, and you'll have really great reviews, and then you'll have a really stinker. I haven't gotten
Okay.
that yet, but I got to prepare for that.
Yeah.
But it was just the idea of launching, and now your product, your baby that you have been working on and all this, for all this, investing and going
Right.
through the production ups and downs or whatever. Now it's launched into the world, and are people going to like it? Is it going to work the way I'm advertising it's going to work? There's that like fear there.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But I would say that now the superseding fear now is the with my brother's death. Thinking that my brother and I would get to see him as an old jolly man.
Sure.
I get to
Sure.
see him 85, and we'd be reminiscing. That didn't happen. So now I know that you know, uh, nothing is guaranteed. Nothing is guaranteed. When my husband leaves in the mornings, I always assume he's coming back, but nothing is guaranteed. So
Yeah.
you can't live your life in fear of that, of course. But
Right.
I think that my superseding fear now is that I'm going to run out of time to do all the things I want to do. Because there's a lot of awful stuff going on in this world.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of wonderful things to live. And I know that when my brother made the decision to get off of life support, and and I wasn't there in the room when it happened. With COVID and everything, I wouldn't have been able to go in
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
But he wasn't afraid of dying. He was sad. I'm sure he
Okay.
was sad to leave his boys and his wife and his
Yes.
family, but like the party was over for him. And he was going to have to get off the carousel of life, and that's it, right? And we get to continue on. So I think it's that fear that I'm going to run out of time to do
Okay.
all the things that I want to do, because there's so much to do in this world. There's so many wonderful things to I mean, there's my business and the idea. I wish I started my business 20 years ago and I still had those 20 years, right? But I think it's running out of time. And there's anxiety that comes from that. And so therefore I work myself really hard. Like I don't really let myself have downtime because I think I'm wasting time. And I didn't used to feel that way. It's like
Okay.
I gotta like I got today.
Yes.
And while I have like this hour of downtime, I could either just completely veg out or
Yes.
I could go and tackle my list on which I have 500 items to do today.
Got it.
You
Got
know?
it.
So
Okay.
no time for the weary. It's so it's trying to manage that. It's like
Okay.
the fear of running out of time and all the things I want to do and accomplish. But you can't run around like the Energizer Bunny because you're not the Energizer Bunny,
Fair.
like
Yeah, that's fair.
so it's
Wow. No,
managing that. And that is a struggle, you know.
I believe it. Yeah, no, that's good. Thank you for sharing that because I think that that's real for quite a few people who are listening.
And
So this is
I'm
good.
sharing it because I think that I'm not unique. I am not unique. I think probably 99% of your listeners, uh, something that I have said somewhere
Oh,
along the line,
yes.
they said,
Resonates.
yeah,
Yeah,
I
for sure.
understand that one.
That's for
But yeah,
sure.
yeah, yeah, because it's like the typical human, you know, experience.
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely. That is awesome. Thank you so much for sharing all that. I think that
You're
there have been
welcome.
so many pearls that you have dropped during this conversation that I think people are going to really benefit from. And then I have some questions for you, though.
Okay, that's
We have
fine.
a tradition on this show, and it is the fill in the blanks. There are three of them. Are you ready?
I am ready because I thought about them.
Oh, fantastic. Fantastic.
No
Okay.
downtime.
Fair.
No downtime for this one.
Fair. All right. The first one is if I am fearless, I will.
Well, let's see. What did I write down? What was my one of the moment? If I am fearless, I had mentioned this before. If I am fearless, I control when I give up, not my fear. I control it. So you can be afraid, and I have been afraid, and I have done stuff when I am afraid. But to me, being fearless is being courageous and saying, in spite of this fear, this is what I'm going to do. I decide, not this fear.
Nice. Nice. The next one is to me, fearless freedom means.
To me, that means that I can persevere in the things that I want to do, and I will triumph in that. That's what that means to me.
Awesome. Awesome. And then last but not least, my battle cry is.
It's very related to the second one, which is when I persevere, I will triumph. And I think that everything I've done in the past few years and in sheer perseverance has led me to this point. And I think, okay, I got to keep persevering day in, day out through all the stuff that comes up, obstacles, good things, bad things. I just persevere. Don't harm myself with criticism and rumination and too much worry and anxiety. You harm yourself when you do that.
Oh, yeah.
It's okay to think
Yeah.
about it, see where you made your mistakes, learn from it, correct it, keep going forward.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that.
You're
And I
welcome.
just would love it if you could tell the audience one more time the website for the
Tell them
bras.
what. Oh,
The
tell them
website for
what.
the bras.
Okay, it's Cobalt, Cobalt hyphen Rose, ROSE.com, like the rose, the flower, and cobalt, because it's a hard element, but it's also my favorite color is cobalt blue.
Okay. Okay.
And so and Cobalt Rose Company, the initial CRC are my initials, Carina Ramirez Cahan. So there's
Fantastic.
a little poetry in there, I guess.
No, that's great. I love hearing backstories of how things are named and such. So that's great. Well, I thank you so much for taking time out to chat with us. We really appreciate
Well,
you. We
thank you,
appreciate your
Dr.
candor,
Gregory.
everything, all the pearls you shared was great.
Well, I hope
Absolutely
it's
great.
helpful I hope that these things are something there is helpful to your listeners and anyone who's afraid. And I don't know what their
Absolutely.
personal circumstances are, but you know, they're not alone. And they do, a lot of people have more inner strength than they think they do.
Thank you so much. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Fearless Freedom with Dr. G. Again, I'm Dr. G. And if you like this episode, be sure to subscribe so that you can get notified of when the next episode is going to be. And also, I'll catch you next time. Have a great one. Be strong, be brave, and unleash your greatness.